The case against scientific materialism. For several centuries now, the scientific materialist worldview has gradually come to establish itself as the predominant way of thinking. Granted, there's still a lot of incredulity, belief in witchcraft, magic, and otherworldliness, but in the large scheme of things, materialism seems to be winning the battle. Materialism is the idea that everything in the world, whether it's tables, buildings, or waves in the ocean, can be reduced to and is fundamentally made up of matter. This way of explaining the world, of course, also applies to human beings. We are biological organisms whose very constitution is made up of matter, in the form of atoms and molecules and so on. Materialism has been and continues to be incredibly powerful in explaining physical phenomena. If you want to know how a car engine works, you better dive into how the laws of physics and chemistry interact to create combustion. If you want to explain the rate of Earth's orbit around the sun, you ought to look at the physical laws that govern this interaction. But what if you wanted to know what vanilla ice cream tastes like? Seems a little bit trivial, yes, but think about it. It seems that if this were the case, you could try gathering all the information in the world about the chemical components of the milk in the ice cream, the taste receptors in your tongue, and the neurochemistry when you're eating it, and so on and so forth. You could gather an infinite amount of descriptive details about ice cream and how the body reacts to it and so on, but nothing would help you understand what the experience subjectively of tasting ice cream is like. And this, my friends, presents the big explanatory hole in materialism. It is unable to explain subjectivity or consciousness. In philosophical circles, this is known as qualia, or features of the world that are inherently qualitative. They cannot be reduced to numerical features like mass, charge, weight, and so on. Though consciousness is in fact an incredibly tough puzzle to crack, there seem to be people who think it's possible to decipher it. People who think we can preserve the materialistic outlook of the world and explain consciousness with it. Their claim is that consciousness could have been a product of evolution, a faculty that enhanced our survival and enabled us to reproduce more easily. Among the possible ways that consciousness could have helped our survival and reproduction, they cite consciousness giving us the capacity to manage our attention and focus on tasks that are important for our survival. Without consciousness, would you be able to pay more attention to the predator waiting for you behind a tree than an annoying mosquito buzzing around you? They also cite the capacity to conceive hypothetical scenarios in the future to see how things could play out given a certain set of actions. If I jump off this cliff, I'll likely not survive. If I manage to get to that bush, I'll be able to collect some berries and feed my offspring. These accounts all seem somewhat plausible, but they ignore one fundamental fact. As Bernardo Kastrup eloquently explains, in the presence of consciousness, Darwinian evolution and ontological materialism cannot work in tandem. They are mutually incompatible. The reason for this has to do with one of the axioms inherent in materialism, and it's the following. The only things that can serve as causes in the world are quantifiable/numerical. This entails that the only reason why, say, a billiard ball moves another one when colliding with it is because it has a set of quantifiable properties. It's moving at a certain speed, it has a certain mass and weight, etc. Similarly, the only reason why you can use your legs to run, for instance, is because they are made up of a measurable amount of mass, they have a determinate length, and so on. In the absence of these numerical quantitative properties, causality would be null. If all of these features equaled zero, nothing would happen. There would be no causes producing effects. Good. Now, let's examine why this doesn't bode well with evolution. We all know that under the Darwinian evolutionary framework, the reason why evolution grants organisms new faculties is because these faculties can serve a particular function, which is to say, they can make a tangible difference in an organism's capacity to survive and or reproduce. Whether it's having longer arms to be able to climb up trees more easily, or having stronger legs to be able to run away from predators quicker, the difference needs to be tangible or have tangible results. Otherwise, it wouldn't make a difference in an organism's capacity to survive and or reproduce. And here is where the contradiction resides. Remember, under the materialistic framework, things that are not quantifiable, such as consciousness, which is inherently qualitative, cannot make a tangible difference in the world. They cannot serve as causes. If consciousness is therefore a purely qualitative phenomenon and has no physical component to it, how could it have made a tangible difference in our survival and or reproduction? The counterargument to this is that some things can evolve without them being beneficial to our survival and reproduction. These are scientifically known as spandrels, features that have no particular use and instead emerged as byproducts of something else. Some people cite chins as an example, though there's some debate around it. Materialists claim that consciousness could just be one of these features, something that evolved with no particular purpose as a mere side effect. This might seem cogent to some, but when you think of the centrality of consciousness to our lives, it seems unlikely. If consciousness, the seed out of which the entirety of what we know germinates, something so important and all-encompassing as it, can be explained away as a byproduct, then it seems that anything can. As Bernardo Kastrup writes, quote, because if something as presumably complex as consciousness can evolve, even if it has no function, even if it's not selected by natural selection, then anything at all could have evolved and we might as well just throw our arms up and start over, unquote. Bernardo seems to be saying that positing consciousness as a mere contingency of evolution would weaken the theory's rigor. It would grant us permission to stretch it as far as we can, to explain away anything and everything as a mere coincidence. Now, I'm not so sure what to think of this one, but I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know if you subscribe to materialism or do not endorse it, if you think consciousness can be explained by it or not. Anyways, that's it for today. Please like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time.